Hey, you hear my theme music? You hear my big bossy theme music? Greetings and salutations. Fabian Thomas here, and I'm excited to be here. So, okay, start with what am I saying this time? So sometimes some things take on a potency, take on a power, take on this idea that it's fact, and some things I struggle with. And one of them is this idea of the absent father, and it's been a chronic epidemic, and boys especially having no access to their fathers, and fathers are not present, and the deadbeat dad syndrome. Don't get me wrong, I know there are men who are deadbeat dads. One of the running jokes for me in Jamaica is when young men, and not so young men, say them get a youth, and I say get from where this shop. You do something with somebody girl child, you brought forth alive. Now what's your role and responsibility? I think my experience has been that a lot of times, even when a father is not physically in the home, the children know where he is, know who he is, and also have access to him. And let's be frank, some fathers, they're not there at the home. They're not there at the home because their behavior negative, disruptive, and problematic. But it struck me so years ago, and I've done it several times when I was mentoring at Calabar. For one Father's Day, I said to the boys, so in preparation for Father's Day, write a letter to your father. Some of them double check to make sure do I have to read it out loud, so they're figuring out how much how understand vulnerable they could be. And I was blown away because I expected a litany of letters of absent fatherhood, but it wasn't. The majority of the boys in the class of 50 not only knew their fathers but had access. You see, know him, they could call and talk to him. In fact, the boys who did not have any connection to their fathers were in the minority. And for the 5 years I did this exercise, that was always the case. The majority of the boys knew who their father was, but also had access to him, sometimes not enough access. And the boys who the absent father thing was really a minority. And that made me think, wow, this is very interesting because it's a trope we've taken on and believe kind of carte blanche. And so, do you have to be physically present in the home to be a father? Does physical presence make the difference in fatherhood? So I'm throwing that question out there. Is giving money enough to be a father? We're not even gonna entertain the sperm donor conversation because we know anybody can donate sperm in a process to bring forth a child. But fatherhood is something much deeper and more ongoing than that. And so as we celebrate Father's Day today, let's talk about what it means to be a father. What does it mean? What does it take? Is it prescriptive? Is there one or two or three things that have to be present to be a father? And the age-old one. Can women father children, especially boys? So today on Fabian Seh, episode 7, it is a CariMAN Jamaica Father's Day reasoning. Running. Greetings again, my people. Greetings again, my people. Here we are, and I'm very excited to be sharing the screen with this gentleman right here. And there should be another gentleman joining us who we hope will join us. We'll see. We'll see, but we are
We'll
pressing
see.
on. Reverend Dr. Dave Hazle, how are you, sir?
I'm quite fine, Fabian. So glad to be with you.
Indeed, indeed. So I know Dave through CariMAN. I knew him before, passing, but we are both members of CariMAN Jamaica.
Mhm.
And what is CariMAN? So CariMAN is the Caribbean Men's Action Network, and the regional headquarters are actually in Trinidad, and we are part of the Jamaica chapter. And Sarah and I see the flyer there showing us. So Joseph Heron, who's the other person who should be joining us, is the country representative in the region. I am the country coordinator, and Dave is one of our core members, and he's also stepping up to be one of our board directors, as is Owen Blacker Ellis and Dr. Peter Weller. And we're an advocacy social behavior change group that really looks about one of our core things is healthy masculinity, which means healthier men in their minds and bodies and spirits who show up healthier in society. It is creating space for men and boys to be their best selves, to be vulnerable, to heal, so that they can in turn be friends, fathers, brothers, uncles, members of society who are adding more positive than negative. And that takes an array of things, trainings, workshops, collaborations, mentorship. And CariMAN has been around for a while. CariMAN, the regional version, but also CariMAN Jamaica. And so today I wanted to get together with some of my CariMAN brethren for us to reason about Father's Day, which is today. So big up all the fathers, in whatever shape, form that takes. And we want to talk about fatherhood. So Dave, when you hear the word father or
Mhm.
fatherhood, what comes up for you? What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that comes to me is my experience of my father,
Hmm.
and that sense that
Joseph
that
has joined us. Greetings, brethren. Greetings, brethren. Greetings, brethren.
Ronnie and Joseph.
But you
um,
said your father.
yeah, happy Father's Day, Joseph, and
Yes, man. Give thanks.
Fabian.
Give thanks. Bless up yourself, Fabian.
Yes,
Thank you, boss.
but that's what comes to mind because that is my first experience of of fatherhood. Um, and I think one aspect of that was the discipline that he instilled in us. So that stands out as one of the significant roles as my in my understanding of father. But when I think fatherhood, I also think of my relationship with God and that
Mm,
sense of God over me as an overall um, one that I'm accountable to, and one who, in a sense, models for me how I should be a father, or how
mm,
fathers should be. You know, um, one that balances not only the discipline side but the love and gentle side.
yeah.
So that I think of those images when I think of father.
Thanks, Dave. And it's a powerful and important thing because for I think almost all of us,
Yes,
if you had a father or father figure present in your life, that's
yes,
where your blueprint starts.
absolutely.
What did you see? What was your experience? How did your father or these father figures show up in your life? What do you remember about them, the impact they had on you, but also how they navigated the universe, how they navigated the world, how they spoke to your mother, how they treated people, how they behaved in the community. And so that presence of a father figure or father figures is so important because that's where the blueprint starts. And even when as kids, when we're soaking it up, we don't even realize. And then later on, it
Mhm.
hits you that you either do it the way your father did, or you're very clear, I am not going to do it the way my father did it. Joseph, so for you, fatherhood, and when you hear the word father or fatherhood, what does that mean to you? What comes up for you?
Um, it means wow. That's such a loaded question, boy. It means a whole heap of things. On a personal level, it means the father is really the child's first experience of otherness, of outside of the world. Because the child is connected to the mother in the womb,
Mm,
is at birth, the breastfeeding. So it is the child is one with the mother, so to speak. And
mm,
so the 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 father is really the child's first experience with the so-called outside world. And so for me it is really critical that the father plays that role, because once the father is playing that role, that child is going to develop confidence and trust in the outside world and know how to step. Every step that they make in the outside world is going to be mirrored, for want of a better term or word, of their experience with their father. You know, how how will they let go? So if they're comfortable with their father, they're going to feel safer to let go, so to speak, of their mother.
mm,
Whether or not their mother want to let go of them is another question altogether, right?
right.
You know,
And
but
it's interesting. I love that too because it's that idea of the balance. I love the way you set it up.
yeah.
That physical, biological, umbilical connection with the mother.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
began your
Hmm.
life inside your mother,
Yeah,
and that
man.
that holding you, that cradling you in the womb and then being brought forth. And it's like the father now enters as an external presence who's
Yes,
now
yeah.
in the picture. And then if you're going to be present and raising the child, is, as you said, almost that jockeying for position.
Mhm,
Because you know your
mhm.
mother is your mother, the mother gave you life and she breastfeed and all this stuff. And your father is this external unit in a way that
Yeah,
for some
man.
people almost becomes like a dispensary. You know, your father's there for money or discipline. You know, father
Mhm,
as
mhm.
enforcer, whereas mother is nurturer and love and softness and
Right.
kindness. And that's a very interesting thing, as you said. That how much does each parent
Mhm.
release? How much
And
do they
it
allow access
does,
in for both?
because it comes with it now. The mother is so, I guess, you're part of the mother, and so fathers generally like encourage exploration, which is linked to
Mm,
going outside of mommy. You know, going outside of
mhm,
you want it, particularly where girls are concerned. Girls will emulate their mothers, you know,
mhm,
and so they're less likely to go away and step away from, only if they're satisfied and comfortable with the mother. And Dave mentioned it just now regarding how does the father treat the mother, because the
mhm,
child is not gonna want to step away unless they're comfortable with how them say daddy treating mommy and mommy
right.
relating to daddy. They
Yeah.
will
Mm.
automatically hold on to mommy's opinion, you know.
Can I say
And we
something
also,
a little about that, Fabian?
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Because I lost a very good friend a few weeks ago, and went to his funeral last week, and I was so moved by the tributes. And one of the things about the tributes that stood out for me, two things rather, was the way how each of his grandchildren and his children spoke of the special relationship that they felt they had with him. You know, that
Mm,
somehow his ability to make space for each of them was significant.
mm,
But what was even equally significant was the way his children spoke about the special relationship that he demonstrated with his wife.
mm,
That you know how he made time to be away from everybody else with his wife. Them
mm.
them know say him wife are number one.
Right.
You understand? That
And
no
I
matter how
love
much.
that that thing about making space for
Yes,
Mhm.
each of them as children, but also
yes,
your wife, and and you pass that on as a skill, like you know, because some people say, "Boy, my mother never loved me, my father never loved me," because it was always showing love on my sister, my brother. So that people feel shortchanged because they didn't feel space was made for them.
right.
Yeah, but that's such a powerful and important thing of the father clearly being intentional on
Yes,
each of
yes.
my children and my wife need my time and I have to make space
Mhm.
for them, and children seeing that as a mechanism is such an important that thing of, you know, I said to people, the conversation I mentioned in the introduction to the show that, you know, we have this saying in Jamaica, oh, me get a youth. And I
Yes.
said,
Mm,
from where the store, the
mm.
shop, it's so distant. It's such a distant statement. But when you
Yes.
look at how some of our young men are raised, same thing that Joseph mentioned, they're raised with that distant. You know,
Yeah,
you
they
you,
are.
you
They
do a
are.
thing, you
And
get a you,
but
just sow your wild oats, and it's the
but but
mother
but,
nurture and carry, but you get a
uh,
you, and you
but
Yes.
get
Fabian,
three youths.
even before that, they were conceived with such distance, because some many of them are not
Mm,
necessarily conceived with
yeah,
love or
yes,
companionship or partnership.
yes,
And
Yes.
so that 9 month journey of pregnancy, the father is not necessarily a part of it. You know, so
yes,
even in some marriages, you don't have that nurturing father who's going to rub the belly
yes,
and carry your mommy and sing to
right,
the belly, you know, and sing to while
yeah,
you're in, you know, that doesn't happen. So in so many ways, and this is also culture, that the man don't start fathering until the pitney born, or until
mm-hmm,
mommy stop breastfeed.
Yes.
mm-hmm,
Even after the pitney born, the father is more a, a support than a parent, because
Yes.
yeah,
when mommy tired and not breastfeeding, you can go and hold the pitney for me, do this for me,
right,
Mhm.
instead of this is part of what you are doing.
And then the other thing
We're
I said, Joseph, that
yeah,
comes up, which is playing with a lot in Jamaica now, is it's when the matriarchs give you access.
right.
Because there are some young men, until granny or auntie or when them say you
Yes.
can't enter the picture, to the point where even birth certificates, father's name sometimes are being intentionally left
Left
off
off.
birth certificates. And we're having to come up more and more now, young men who are not so young men who want to be part of their children's lives are being prevented from being
Yes.
as a punishment because you and I are broke up now. And so again, our young people are absorbing that. And I know in terms of the work that CariMAN has done and that we want to do, it's
Yes.
creating the space even for young men to explore that. What did you see? What was your father's presence and in your life and with your mother, and
Yes.
how much of that are you learning from, and also what kind of man or father do you want to be? Because you
Yes.
don't have to follow the blueprint of your father. You can show up in a different kind of way, in a way that maybe is an improved model of what
Yes.
your father set up for you, but that is your starting point.
And I think in light of the fact that so many family configurations in our context end up being one in which the father is not resident with the children.
Mm,
It's like we have to look at models where fathers have found a way to make that still work. In other
yes,
words, work in the sense that they are still able to be in the child's life, and that
yes,
intentionality. That takes
yes.
and it takes, as you said, as you quite rightly say, a willingness to give access.
Mm-hmm.
But that intentional involvement of fathers, even when they are not living with the children, of doing whatever they can do at school,
Mm-hmm.
going to see the child when they can, or taking the child when they are able to, and give providing gifts or whatever ways they can demonstrate to the child that I am
Yes.
still alive and I want to be,
Yes.
whatever they are able to still do to maintain
Yes.
a presence in
And I
that child.
mentioned that in the intro and it ended up being almost like an experiment that I did at Calabar for 5 or 6 years. But the
Yes,
first time I did it, I was blown away because I expected the majority of the boys, their letters to be to these absent fathers.
yes,
But the majority of them, even if the father was not present in the house, they had access to him. Some
yes.
of them not as much access as they would have liked. And
Hmm.
that the number of fathers who were totally absent was actually in the minority.
Yep.
And that was the case for the five when I had them write letters on Father's Day. It was very interesting. And I just said, Dave, and I thought, wow, wouldn't it be a powerful thing to get some of these fathers now to be more present for them to say, for example, brethren, how are you going to work? What's your plan?
Yep.
So your son don't just see when he needs some money.
Yep.
Don't just see when you come to make noise at the house, that you have an intentional plan to be
Yes.
in your son or your child's life, whether it is football game, school recital, PTA. How do you set up these things where you normalize and increase your
Yep.
presence in your child's life? Because you're also getting to know a being who go into themselves. So
Yep.
somebody has to see with the child say, I don't know you. I don't know you. You didn't raise me. You don't know. When I went through these things and had these epiphanies and heartaches, you weren't there. So in a way, we have to build a relationship now that I have more access to you,
Yep.
because fatherhood is also that whole process of taking that journey.
Yep.
Were you there? Not just the wisdom, the nurturing, the love, the silliness, the funniness, the difficulty, the hard time, the all those things are part of being a father. As opposed to in Jamaica, a lot of times, wait till your father come home. The father as bully and enforcer, and
Yes.
also then a source of violence, and that's what a lot of boys know their father as. And even when he
Yes.
was absent, the mother called the father to come sort you out,
Come
to drop
enforce it.
some lick on you and enforce. So the
Yes.
father is not a nice taste in your mouth. Your father was somebody to be feared. Who
Yes.
and they can say this scar when we get and this scar. I don't remember there's a thing on social media. It was heartbreaking, and the guy was and he cried the entire time when the recording when father to beat him and also throw salt water on the wounds.
Yeah.
Yes. Salt
Do you
and
remember?
pepper.
And I thought this is a brother who needs some mental health assistance, because you carry that trauma for you for the rest of your life. And the fact that the way he just kind of, and as he was talking, even with the anger and the tears just streaming down his face, And
Yes.
I'm thinking, wow, and I remember thinking, I wonder if he has children, and I wonder what kind of father he is as a result of, has he gone in the opposite direction, or is he repeating, some of the same pain and trauma that was inflicted on him
Yes.
in your
Mhm.
circles. So in your circles, what are your observations of fathers and fatherhood in Jamaica? So Dave, as a teacher, as a pastor, Joseph, as a father yourself, as an advocate, as somebody who was in the school system, what have been your observations of fatherhood, and sons and fathers and daughters and fathers in your trod?
I think one of the observations is what I guess is would be considered changing trends.
Mm,
That is to say, I think we have loaded up the absent fathers issue sufficiently
mhm,
that I think we are seeing a lot more effort on the part of fathers. I'm seeing in the circle of, say, children being brought to school, being brought to basic
mhm.
school, more involvement of the fathers doing the carrying to school.
Mhm.
So I feel like there there's progress in terms of fathers' intentional presence and intentional participation. You know, and I and
Right,
I and I think we want to affirm that. And
Yeah.
right.
on a personal level, I feel like I have seen my father, who is now 94, move from the disciplinarian that I described earlier on to be a person who demonstrates his love for his children
Mm.
and reflects on his children's love for him.
That
You
happened
know,
with my father as well. My father became my non-demonstrative bully of a father who we never get along with and was a for a long time.
yes,
Became this affectionate, weepy, in bad for everything. Call me to tell me he love me. And when the first time he said that, I was like, who is this man? Who has some being has hijacked our father's body? Because my
no,
sister said, everybody daddy crying when he get. I said, who? They said, Ufa.
yes,
And then one night I was over there for dinner one Sunday, and he was talking about my niece, and he started crying. And my sister kicked my little and said, I'm like, and then him head was done, and she said, say something. And I'm like, what people say? Because we don't know this guy. But then we got used to it, and then I also valuing that he called me to check in on me, and how come you don't call me? And I just am moving from disappearing and somebody who I was really, really estranged from to expressing love and how much he's proud of me.
no,
And then even talking about my mother and how much he love him. And this is my gruff, non-demonstrative father talking about, when he met my mother, he knew they had broken the mold. I'm saying, what, yes, sir.
no, my
But
father
I
would
was
come
so
at 10
glad
and
I
11
got
o'clock.
that side of him
Yeah,
to understand, that this love, this man had these emotions and feelings,
yes,
and as he got older, he was more comfortable in expressing them.
it seems so. It
So
seems
Yes.
so
so.
it's a misnomer. We have gotten into this acceptance that men are not as emotional as women,
Yes,
and
Big time.
it couldn't be farther from the truth. It's just that men express emotions differently,
yes,
naturally, and also as a society, because of the expectations and the taboo
Mm,
of men being labeled as emotional. And if
mhm.
it means that you're a girl, it means
Yes,
your feminine side is coming out.
yes. And there's been
And
experiments that show that when children, sometimes a deliberate experiment or just parents who raise their children differently, that
yes.
when that gender lens and that society, that gender role is not there, boys do not express emotion differently. But
no,
them
they
learn
don't.
like, okay, you can't cry for everything like your
That,
sister. You can't
right,
you
right,
can't show and you can't show fear. You
right.
can't show. Now when they're not told that or they don't
Yeah,
feel that, they don't behave like that.
Mhm. So,
correct.
so one of the things that I would have been well, seeing is I'm agreeing with what Dave is saying to a large extent, but at the same time, I'm seeing that there's a lack of know-how. There's a lack of
Mm,
there's a lack of or there's a massive level of ignorance where
Mm-hmm.
fathering is concerned because of
Mm-hmm.
the language that we use. And so the man who was not, whose father was distant, but
Mm-hmm.
he to that distant father, in his mind, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's doing what
Yeah.
is expected of him, because this is how he was taught. and
Yes.
and how is it really benefiting his child? And so that is also a transfer. So there's a massive misunderstanding
Yeah.
of fathering and the value of fathers, mainly because, and I think this might be another remnant of slavery, because mothers have to be there. Mothers have been there for so long, and so the language that we have gotten accustomed to, the language that we see, the language that dominates, is
Mm-hmm.
the so-called mother language. And
Mm-hmm.
so when the father language comes around, we know so little about it that we automatically gravitate back to what we know, which is the mother language, the
Mm-hmm.
mothering kind of way. And so what is
Yeah.
this foreign thing about the father coming to change diaper and to cry with the
Mm-hmm.
picnic and to have
And
a,
to,
to have a daughter on your lap, and to do all of those so-called and
yeah.
brushing her
Our
hair?
words
Something
are
most
words to
wrong.
have your son on your lap or kiss your son in
Are you
forehead.
right,
People
and
do
hug the
that. They're
son,
like, what?
you know,
There's a
and
picture, I'll never
spend so
forget
much
it. What did it do
time,
for
and
me? There's
right.
a there's
So
a picture that I thought was beautiful. African American, a father, obviously the father, his son and the grandson. And the grandfather is kissing this
it's
grandson on
kissing,
his
yes, yes,
forehead,
yes, yes.
and the
I know
son,
that image. Very, very
and you
powerful image.
saw the
Extremely
comments
powerful
on
image.
social media.
We
And
Yeah, man,
first
I
of all,
saw it.
they sexualized it, and I
Yes.
thought, I saw them, thought, what a beautiful picture of generational love and connection. And
Right.
people took it
Mhm.
apart, and the same way with those same boys at Calabar with the letter writing, so many of them, before they wrote the letters expressing love to their father, they double checked if I was gonna read it out and call them name.
Mm.
Before they took the risk of
Yeah, man.
writing the loving letter, they checked them, say, sir,
Mhm, mhm,
I'm going to read it
mhm,
out in a class. I'm like, no. Them say, sir, you going to read it out and call my name? No. Some of them they checked before.
Yes.
And so some of them
mhm.
wrote beautiful letters. I mean, some of them even to absent fathers. One of them, the rules he used in the letter was, he said, Daddy, I know you're busy, but I'm mommy normally go PTA, but she can't go. And it's important me. I'm asking you please to come to the PTA meeting.
Well,
And this is what was one
Mhm,
from an absent father, but most of them they checked to be safe.
mhm.
Once they were clear that I was not going to show it to anybody or read it out,
mhm,
they
Yes.
went, okay, so I can be honest
mhm,
in this
mhm,
letter. And
mhm,
I thought again that passing on of don't show too much emotion, you can't tell you that you love him. And some of them, even when the father absent or stay bad, them said, Daddy, I love you. And my father is the greatest man in the world. And so that dichotomy of, him walkless, him
Mhm.
treat my mother bad, him not really, but I love him and I actually want to spend more time with him.
Yeah.
And as I was saying earlier, also some of the work that as CariMAN we want to do, creating spaces for men to unpack that, but also what does
and
being a father look like? So
and
whether we want to call them fathering workshops, or they're talking about
Yes.
what is the baggage you're carrying, but also what does fathering effectively and
mm,
functionally look like? What does it feel like? And what are the tools and
there's
skills that you
there's
don't
something
have that you
I want to
need to show up in that way?
Yeah.
yeah, there's something I want to throw into, Fabian, is the this whole space of parenting that is dominated by mothers.
Mm,
And to if you have one circle of parenting that is dominated by the first parent, the other parent, the father, to get in there and to get comfortable, are we going to challenge mothers? So what are they willing to give up, right? So the
Or
example
share.
I'm or
Share
share.
rather than yes.
I deliberately said give up in a Dave,
All
because
right.
so for example, I'm giving my personal experience now is um we have three daughters, and in the mornings I would do the fruits and Kim would get the girls ready for school. And
mm,
I realized, you know what? But in the morning is spending time with them. I
Mm-hmm.
want to spend time with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I put it to Kim, look here, you the fruits, some days I get them ready
I.
other days. It was a massive rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
Serious negotiations had to take place. So that's
Yes.
why I said give up, Dave, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Yes.
right there, so I wanted to do that, and she had to give up that, but I had
Yeah.
to fight tooth and
Because
nail,
that's
right?
the pride of place of the mother, and
There
that's the
you
other thing that
go,
ties in
you
is
know,
the
and
nature of
there you
relationships that
go, you
parents are
know,
having with each other, whether you're in
and,
the house or not. That
mhm,
Yes.
negotiation of, because
and
as you said, Joseph,
exactly.
preparing the fruit is you and the fruits in the kitchen.
Right,
It's
it's me,
not, they're not
exactly. And it's
there.
cutting up, man with a knife, cut up, or me go
Yes.
say go pick again. That's a
Mm-hmm.
manly thing to do. Put it in
Mm-hmm.
the garbage. But I said, you know what? I want to get them ready. I want to brush them here, which is
Yes.
traditionally the
Lovely.
nurturing woman.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it was, and it still is.
Yes.
So, are women willing when there's a man who is able and willing and want to do this? Are they
Yes.
going to back off
Yeah.
and say, you know what? Let me give up some of this because we're talking about 5 days a week. You
Yes.
want with the pit them, and I am going to come and say, hello, you go downstairs now. You go for this, go do that, and me alone. You're not going to be part of this.
Yeah. And I think the thing has to be again, it goes back to because the reality is
Yes.
if men and fathers start to step up in the way there, it's gonna have to shift all the relationships. The
Yes.
But
paradigm
you
have to
have
shift
to,
completely.
but in
Because as
stepping
I
up,
said,
you have to be able to fight.
it's that negotiation of
Yes.
Mhm.
now that you are present, or now that as I said, somebody who's able and willing, how
Yes.
do we share space, make
But
space, give up some
um,
things, switch up some roles, and
Yes.
let
mhm,
go of the old paradigm that we may have become comfortable with, and say,
Yes.
eh,
okay, so this is what our parenting looks like. This is that we can allow
yeah,
each other to be in the different spaces, because because you are present, and that this is what a black there's something a blacker always says that him always say when people say, no, this make glad seeing how you help your wife. No, I'm not helping her.
that's exactly it. And
Play my
This
that
role.
my
is
father if you do
used.
this if you do is that you're
It's
not
used by
helping the mother
everybody, you know. And
and being
Yes.
a
yeah,
father. Again, I just said that's the way we view it. Lord, it's so nice to
yeah,
see you helping out.
Yes.
right.
So
But that,
the stereotypes are not only seen are not only embodied
yeah.
by men, but the stereotypes are
And they're
expressed
reinforced,
expressed
and it's
in the
also a
Yeah,
safe
in the
space.
women's
That's why I say,
understanding too.
how comfortable are women gonna feel in giving
Yes.
up and relinquishing some of that.
right.
May I use the word power, so to speak?
Yeah.
The power,
Yes.
their power of parenting and
Yeah.
controlling of that
And what
space.
and I mean what I've said, I said, and I guess it depends on the woman and the situation that I've seen quite a few women who are very comfortable, who have to they have to meds in them say, okay, this is different, this is new. Like, what do I do with this negotiation? This
Yeah.
I don't have to be the be all and the end all. I
Yes.
don't have to be superwoman. I
Mhm.
don't have to. I can actually share this responsibility. And even when people who are separate and the co-parenting thing, people are learning what that look like.
Mhm.
And what does that really look like if you because some people have no business being together, but you have this child. And
Yeah,
so what
yeah,
does
yeah, yeah.
co-parenting look like in
But
terms of power and in terms
Yes.
of respect, in terms of one of the others I want to say quickly that I'm really glad about is that I think in a lot of popular culture, I think unfortunately a lot of it American, you're seeing shifts in the way fathers and fatherhood is being presented,
Yes.
especially a lot of episodic shows, where it's Queen Sugar, which had a powerful the father, Ernest Gay, in the beginning. And sadly, he dies early. But when they talked about him as a father and being there for his children, and then the way his son Ralph Agent went on to find his rhythm, and there was This Is Us, which
Mhm.
had that father figure. And so
mhm.
people are, and there's a few other things, where the fathers are being and fatherhood is being presented in a different way.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah. But I'm
multi-dimensional way. And as you said, those conversations and negotiations, or even the presentations of single fathers,
mhm.
there's more exploring what that looks like. Because in some cases, I remember a taxi man told me recently, and he started to cry in the taxi. The mother of his children, she just left him in one day. She just left him and the four kids just left. Like she just
Oh.
packed,
Mhm.
just left the house. And
Mhm.
so he was left to to to
To
deal
raise
with it.
them. Mm.
And he talked
experience is
about
more common
being
than we think.
yes, and
It
he
is.
talked
It is
about being
actually, but
lost
it's
time,
not
but he had
spoken
to
about.
rally back
Exactly.
and find a way to step up,
Mm.
and what he needed to do and get help, and but also fill the gap that was there by having two parents present,
Yes.
um, which is such an important thing.
Yes.
One of the things that I want to say as well, as even as we talk about Father's Day today, that I have to say I'm personally pleased about, is that in the last, I'm going to say 2 or 3 years, the attention being given to Father's Day has definitely ramped up
Step up.
in
Step
terms
up.
of issues and conversations and programs and topics and even the commercialization.
Yes.
Many more restaurants now have Father's Day. Because before it was like a loud chorus for Mother's Day and then a whisper for
That's it. Yes.
but
Mhm.
no, a lot of men are saying it, that they're seeing it. I
Yes.
saw recently on Twitter somebody who I don't follow him say he was doing something with his daughter, reading to her, and then she said, "Oh yes, this Sunday's Father's Day," and how she was excited because she wanted to do something nice for him. And he said, "Him never expect to feel so special and emotional that his daughter, that she didn't remind her, he never even remember if she say." Oh yes, and this Sunday's Father's Day, and I'm excited because I wanted to do something, have something special for you. And he
Mm.
said he felt so good. He felt loved, and he said he was actually taken aback by how much it meant to him.
Wow.
Just
Mhm.
her remember on her own, and
Yes.
then say, I'm looking forward to it because I have a surprise for you. I want to do something special for you. And so simple little things like that, make a huge difference.
Yes.
Um,
But we have to we have to also consider um the 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 shift and what it means. Now, for and again, I'm gonna go along the line that the boy or the sorry, let me get back my train of thought. This shift where the man is now more involved
mhm,
in the father, because before her the children's language and their understanding of the world is through mommy. So for example, if I to brush my daughter's hair, it's not being done like that. You're doing it wrong, you know.
mhm,
But and I know to this day, because I started up with fruits, to this day they keep telling him that she don't know if to cut up fruits, she can't cut up fruits. Is that he must do it. But
mhm,
where I'm going is that there is once the father is equally involved from the get go,
Yes.
there's not going to be a wrong way or a right way. There's just going to be mommy
That
do
is
it
it.
like this,
That we are.
daddy do it like this.
right.
And because it has always been mommy's way, when daddy come along and do it different, daddy doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Daddy can't
Mhm.
do it.
Right.
But
Likewise,
that's
Rather than
already
different,
that's
you might do it
already
wrong.
rather
Yeah,
than different,
yeah,
you
and
know?
but that's already there because just like even when children go to the other home, let's say them have them,
Yes.
yeah, them say, but that's not the way mommy fried the egg. Them that's not the way daddy this so and so and
Hmm.
so. So it's
Hmm.
about again, as you said, that
And,
shift and people
and
negotiating and
and acceptance of
renegotiating the
that.
relationship and saying,
Yeah.
okay, I do it like this, and maybe so. For instance, let's say with here or whatever, maybe there's a way that mommy does the hair because of her understanding of being,
Hmm.
and the
And
texture and what
and
to put in the ear to
practice.
make it and
The
practice.
practice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
But
it's and I also, as you mentioned, that I also love the fact that again on social media and stuff, there's been these lovely videos and clips of fathers combing them daughter hair and
yes.
prepping them children for school and having playing with their children. There's one a really nice with a young African American guy and him son who can barely talk to him and say they were watching our children like, can you believe she did that? And the son's like, I'm like, yes, that's my son exactly. And of course, it went viral. And I love that there's some of this more normalization
Yes.
um,
Mm.
of this relationship and this nurturing. Um, so let's broaden it as we wrap up this conversation. Are there any things you'd like to see happen in Jamaica from a national policy, governmental level, or community level? What are some of the things you'd like to see shift in terms of the support of fathers being more present, and upping the fatherhood game in Jamaica?
It not be a facade, it be real. Right now it's just more a celebratory being Father's Day. The standards of father, the acceptable standards and expectations of fathers right now. It is very limiting and very disappointing to say the least. So when I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, then I'm considered an exceptional father when I don't think I'm an exceptional father.
Right.
For me, an exceptional father fathers not only his children, but fathers so many others, and
Right.
not just in a mentoring kind of way, but
Hmm.
really fathering. And so,
Hmm.
the village concept of fathering, that is where I would really love us to go nationally.
Right.
Um, and have a focus on what it really means to be a father.
Yeah.
That it goes beyond, because when you think about
Yeah.
it, if I am fathering my children effectively and I send them out into the world, when they go into the world, the impact that they will have on
Right.
anybody who they come into, they come to influence, it's going to be positive. And likewise,
Right.
when I step through that door and I speak to a child, and if everybody thinks the same way. So I mean, when I'm walking on the road, I mean, my father died in 1998, but I still buck up on people and ask who said, "Oh, you're a Heron? Are you home a Heron son?" And they would go into the values that they
Hmm.
saw in him, and they would ask me, "So, if me have them same values there?" And for me, that is fathering. So
Yes.
it's we're not we, I don't know. We have to hold men to higher standards where fathering is concerned. We're letting men get away too easy.
But
You
And
know,
here's the other thing I was doing at and to hold them at the higher standards, we have to raise better men.
oh, definitely.
that's what
Because the way we're
It's hand in
treating them
hand.
and how we're
That's a chicken
treating
and
them
egg kind of
now,
thing, Fabian.
yeah.
we're getting the results.
Hmm.
About
You're coming like a
we have
workless pooper,
we are
and you're
reaping what we
now
are
like, do,
sowing.
do, do, do. Say again,
As
Dave.
Barshab said, we're reaping what we're sowing.
Hey, we
And
are.
Yep,
and
yep,
what
absolutely.
part of what I would say in terms of a national response is I think this notion of parenting instruction and parenting teaching needs to become a real national
Yes.
project,
Yes,
and as
sir.
part of that,
Amen,
we,
amen, amen.
we intentionally are helping boys and young men appreciate what practically does my role look like. What are the how do I plot here, or how do I do some of the things that are
Yep.
ways in which I can share the nurturing
Mm.
if I have children.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the point that you're making there, Joseph, is crucial to that it don't mean because I don't have any biological children, but I can still be a father.
Very
I
much
can,
so.
when I say to a student, but you are my daughter or you're my son.
Mm-hmm.
I say something that can make a significant impact on them, even if they have their own father.
Yes.
But especially if they
When
don't
they
have one.
don't, when they yes.
The my ability to be a father to them enables them to then benefit
And
from
then also,
fatherhood
Mhm.
being what it
and I
is.
want to piggyback on that, Dave. When I was in this high school system, I hear this a lot. They say, "Oh, we need more men in the system to keep these boys in line." I'm like, no, you don't need no men in the system to come and bully them and to be enforcer. You need more men in the system to show them what being a good
Yeah.
man is, to show
Mhm.
them what being a
To
father
model.
and a mentor is. Not this. Because they're
Yes.
already getting that. They're already getting that in their life and society. So you have to
Yes.
shift why you want men in the system.
Yes.
Hmm.
Because you will get those men, and are you going to reap the results of them coming and being bullies and
Yes.
being enforcers? But again, that's where the head was like, no, you need men who can run the gamut of the experience. And as you
Yes.
said, who can be teachers, mentors, fathers, uncles, and can show what it look like.
Encourages.
How
I
you deal
mean,
with conflict? How do you speak to people? How do you
yes.
all those things that feed into this concept and idea of fathering, mentoring, and parenting, and that idea of it takes a village.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That
Yes.
of and there's certain people you respect and people who can call you and say, "Come here."
Yes.
You see, I walk with them people. They what I go on.
Exactly.
And you know, and that still exists in some places, but not enough.
Yes.
Something has gone awry. But we want to celebrate the fathers, whether you are a single father, not in the house, not present in the house. If you are absent and out of your child life, then why? What does that look like? How do you renegotiate space and entry? We
Yes.
also want to do a call and again around the work of CariMAN and other groups like us is how do we rope in the men who are deliberately absenting themselves from their children,
Yes.
who don't
I want
need to be responsible or to play a role, and who happy to
no,
say, me
but
have 10 youths and me now mind none of them.
Right.
And that
um
doesn't bother
there
me, and I don't have any problem with that.
mm,
Because
True.
it really is about trying to speak to or connect with all kinds of men and fathers as they're showing up and working towards how can the fathering and the presence be increased and be more functional and to be healthier so that the man, the father himself,
Mm-hmm.
gets nurtured and gets healed and
mm,
manifests in his highest form.
the
Also, the impact now on the children in your home, in your family, in your community, in the church, all over, because of how men are showing up as fathers
Right.
and as a mentor, as a nurturer, as a protector and a guider.
Absolutely.
Um,
the other thing we have to consider though, Fabian, is this fathering issue did not develop in a vacuum. You know,
Yes.
it is more reactionary, and so you mentioned the fathers who stay away. There are so many fathers who stay away. I am not quick to to blame an individual father because it has become such a national problem, and
mhm.
nationally we have to look at it to see how we're going to deal with it. And there's some cultures, some aspects of our culture that we hold on to. Specifically, one aspect is how we value. I want, for want of a better word, go look, go have they have the whole heap of woman them and the stripes we get by
Yeah, man.
having a whole heap of woman them, you know,
And
and
enough
so
gal and gal in a bung.
right, and girl in a bung, and that is a major part of getting stripes as a real big man, you
Hmm.
know, and that comes with having multiple children with multiple women. I remember one meeting I had, his brethren, he was boasting that when he left high school, by the time he left high school, he already had 3 children,
Hmm.
and that by the time, at the time of that meeting, he knew of 17, right? And then he also boasted that in one weekend,
He knew of 17
knew of 17, right? And
children.
he, children, right? And he boasted of having in one weekend having 3 children being born to him in one weekend at one
Wow.
hospital, right? And out of that, well, I'm not done yet. Out of that, he says he also got another one because the nurse at the hospital where those 3 children were born were impressed with him, and she eventually became another one of his baby mothers. But she knew.
So she was impressed by the fact that they had 3 children in one weekend.
Yes, yes, she knew,
Mm.
and I mean them kind of values when
But you see, but
because
that goes back to as we were saying earlier. Somebody raised that boy. A system, a culture, a community raised that boy,
all right, all right,
and him played, and then
all
him
right,
have that, and then a nurse is impressed
mm-hmm,
until she goes on to also have a
all
child.
right. And
So
he at that point in time in a Fabian and Dave, he did not feel he felt he was doing sufficiently well to father all his children. I said,
Mhm.
how do you do that financially,
Yeah.
emotionally, physically?
And what
How
does
do
that
you
look
do
like?
that? How do you divide yourself 17 times during the
Yeah.
day? Somebody is going to get neglected and left out. Not
Yeah.
somebody or somebody's,
Yeah.
and it is not frowned upon on a whole, because I'm sure among him friend them him get ratings because him brave and him this and him that.
and that
And
that
and
takes,
me call him a madman. I say
yeah,
you're absolutely crazy.
and that
You
takes
know?
that takes us further afield to some of the work that is the focus of CariMAN and groups like us about looking at
Fabian and Dave,
masculinity,
see me
masculinity
that.
and being a man. So it's a lot. It's a larger conversation that,
It
as you
is.
said,
It
doesn't
is.
happen
It
in
is. But we have
isolation.
to tie it in though, Fabian. We have to tie it
Because
in.
him never make up those norms. It's in the music, it's in the culture,
No,
it's all over the
no.
place, and so
But
it's a
the
that
you
shift.
know, but
Um,
it's
all
an
right,
excuse. But
so
you know, me have to
this is
go. I
the
can't.
longest Fabian say. So Joseph, you're not
Listen,
coming on late,
That,
I'm not run late.
that it has to be
you see
daddy.
my daughter come to me while like, and me she come for
Remember Djembe reading video and
And
wrap up.
me she come for. Wait, so you want me read it? You want me read the Djembe?
Yes, your Djembe section.
Let me find it.
Yes, and Dave has his.
Why is it
And,
taking so long to
and
come
some
up?
images will come up as you read, and then we'll wrap up the show. Ah, there you go. Our first image is there.
All right, so let me read it. Let me
Yes.
read it. I turn the phone sideways.
So to set it up, folks, is an excerpt
Last
from
God.
my book
I have,
Djembe.
I have put on my glasses now. Jesus and Mrs. Fabian.
Old age, the terrible thing.
All right. So, all right, here we go. 2 weeks later, Mr. Jones did a performing arts team challenge with the class for Father's Day. He asked for volunteers to lead the teams. Djembe raised his hand to be the team leader for one of the boy teams. Shaniqua was selected to lead a girls' team. Djembe arranged a team meeting, and his team members voted to use his poem for their performance. Djembe asked.
Uh-oh.
Oh, did we lose? We lost Joseph.
It looks so.
All right, so I'll jump in. So what did the Djembe? Djembe asked his father to get in touch with the parents and guardians of his team members to organize a costume for them. On the day, everyone was excited. Parents, guardians, family, and some teachers came to watch. Even his brother Marcus was there. Shaniqua's team went first. They sang and danced to a part of Jamaican singer Romain Virgo's song Hero. Everybody clapped and cheered when they were finished. When it was Djembe and his team's turn, they entered the classroom in a line and took their positions.
Mm.
Over to you, Sir Dave.
The audience started whispering in excitement. They performed Djembe's poem in dub poetry style, with Djembe playing a djembe drum. At the end, they faced the audience and said, "We love our wonderful melanin skins. We are destined for greatness. We are young kings." Everybody jumped out of their seats, cheering and shouting. Even the other teams agreed that they had won the challenge. Djembe's team gathered around him, chanting, "King Djembe, King Djembe, King Djembe." Mr. Jones walked up to Djembe's father and said, "You see your boy?" He replied, "Yes, I see him. My son, King Djembe."
Thank you, gentlemen. And just to give some context, so this is Djembe, my first children's book, and this section I intentionally have the father very present in the story. And as you see, the performing arts challenge after Djembe overcomes a fear of presenting is set for Father's Day, and he roped in the father, and so a few of the children have picked up on that and say how much they like it that Djembe's father was present, and then the brother who's at the performance, he's actually bullying Djembe in the book, and I'm going to focus on dealing with the bullying in the second
Mhm.
edition of Djembe. And so we wanted to end with that story. I was really intentional, of writing a book about Black boy joy,
Mm.
celebrating that. And I wanted to have this clear relationship and connection with his father, and also a positive male teacher, Mr. Jones, who, added on this performing arts challenge for the class. And we wanted to share that as a Father's Day reading and blessing. Shameless plug. Where is the book available? The book is available at Cozy Corner, which is in Vision Plaza on Kansas Spring Road. It's available at Bookophilia. It's also available online. on Amazon in Kindle and on Lulu in paperback, and the t-shirts are available on spring.com. Reverend Dr. Dave Hazle,
Yes, sir.
thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's been my pleasure.
Heron, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We clearly have to have a follow-up conversation, and we will, about this
Absolutely.
idea of masculinity, male presence, healthy masculinity.
Absolutely.
And Jamaica's move forward, and also the rest of the world around how do we shift this paradigm. And so, gentlemen, thank you, thank you, thank you. I have to big up as usual my producer and co-conspirator, Michael Sean Harris. My name is Fabian Thomas. This has been Fabian Seh. A CariMAN Father's Day reasoning. Big up on yourself. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Light.
All right.